Over to you, Emmett.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Trudy. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining in for yet another session for Technical Drop-In. And this one today is one of the most coveted and awaited sessions for a very long time. We are now going to have a live demonstration for NetBackup 8.3. As we go along, I have Phil and Rob with me. Phil, if you just move on to the next slide, I would want to introduce briefly on how the session would go today. So we are expecting, a demo that can go from 30 minutes to 45 minutes, maybe even more. So right now we're open, and based on how interactive our session can get, we would define our demonstration. But essentially what we are looking at is a demonstration for NetBackup 8.3, and we also have use this forum as a question and answer section where we've got Rob and myself, Phil, to answer your questions pertaining NetBackup or anything regarding data management. Now, for the session today, we have a JB Hi-Fi gift card. Now, this is a $50 gift card that we will hand out to the best question asked. So make sure you ask all your questions to the panel here. Use the question and answer section in the WebEx to type in your question. As soon as you have a question, Rob and I will try to answer that question online, and then once Phil gets a window in his demo, we will try to bring out some unanswered questions as well. So with that said, I'm actually going to now hand it over to Phil for our live demo. Over to you, Phil.
Okay, thank you. So Amit and Rob for helping me do the demo today. So I'll first do a quick sound check. I'm loud and audible, Amit?
Yes, you are, and we can see your screen as well.
Okay, all good. So thanks everyone for joining in today. Now, some of you may have joined in the NetBackup 8.3 launch webcast we did just a couple of weeks back. And what I'm going to do today is, on that day, if you did join, now maybe as a follow-up, we can point you to the recording of the launch webcast material as well. But on that session, I talked about the features, but today I want to showcase some of the features for you from a couple of systems I have for the demonstration purpose today. And but I honestly, as a short session like this doesn't do justice to showcase all the features, but I'm going to focus on a few key themes to help you understand, what are the benefits of, using some of the NetBackup A3 capabilities, and also touch on a few other things that are there, which I think can help make life very easy if you're using NetBackup today. So before that, I want to pause here for a second and draw your attention to everything we've done in NetBackup A3, which are put into 4 themes: workload, improvements in workloads, improvements in cloud adoption, usage, and consumption. Operational simplicity is along the theme of making things easy to use, easy to work with. And then the other aspect we've focused on is governance compliance in this day and age of ransomware, giving you ways and means of making components immutable in backups. So I'm going to, on this poll, you'll see a polling question in front of you. I'm going to ask you to pick one. If you had to pick one of these 3 themes, the one that is most important to you, can you pick one? It may be hard. You might want more than one. You might want 2, 3, maybe all four, but choose one. Okay. Trudy, how is the poll going?
I think
Yes,
Phil, sorry, Trudy, go for it.
no, I was just about to say we're getting some good responses coming in. We'll keep it going for just a little bit longer, and then we'll look to close it off.
All right. So I'm going to dive straight into demonstrating some of the themes. Now, I think Trudy, in the invite to the session, mentioned that we are going to focus on 3 key areas. So I'll elaborate on those things. And yep, so we have closed the poll, and the results say that operation simplicity and governance and compliance came out as the most important for you. Good. So I'm going to spend the rest of the time and leave some time for Q&A at the end as well. We've had some questions coming with your registration as well. We'll try to get hold of some of those questions, and if you keep sending your questions on the Q&A panel of your WebEx session. So look for the Q&A panel. Questions as you see fit, put them in there. I will handle them at the end of the session, and Rob and Amit will also help respond to them. And we will follow up with you if we do happen to run out of time with the number of questions. All right, so with that, let's dive into the first theme, operation simplicity. That this, in fact, came on and top as the most important topic for you from the poll. Okay, so with that, so I have a couple of NetBackup environments that I'm going to use for today. So I have 2 environments on premises. If I say that, well, on premises in the sense it's in my lab environment here in my office. And then I have 2 other environments, one in Azure and one in AWS. So I'll use all of them to demonstrate different capabilities. So this, if you have not used before, is the new NetBackup user interface. So let me sign out and log in. So if you are using NetBackup 8.1.2 and above, you will have this what we call as the new web-based UI available to you. And if you haven't used it before, I would ask you to start using it with NetBackup A3 onwards, and you'll see that I'm logging into 8.3.0.1. So the first update to NetBackup A3 has already been released. So we are already at the next update of NetBackup A3, 8.3.0.1. And I'm waiting for the login session to go in. So besides that, we've also released the updated version of the Op Center Analytics server as well. Let me kick off another session to my vCenter. And if you are looking for code, log into the Veritas support portal, and you'll be able to go select and download the code updates. So that's where you would get NetBackup A3 code downloads from. All right. So go select your go select NetBackup from your list, and there you go. And you can select the specific version and kick off your downloads. So now if you use the web interface in NetBackup 8.1.2 or NetBackup 8.2, you'll find more things in the NetBackup A3 web interface. So you have your dashboard, you have the activity monitor that comes up here. So this is your NetBackup, what has been going on in your environment. And then you have the workloads that are protected. And you have two types of protection mechanisms. So there is the policy framework. Now, this policy framework is new in the NetBackup A3 web interface. Prior to that, we only had protection plans. So protection plans and policies are a bit different from each other. So a protection plan is meant to be a self-service interface as well. So you have a protection plan based on VMware, SQL, for example, and it is somewhat similar to a regular backup policy. Like it would have the workload description over here. You'll have the schedule description over here, and you'll have the protected assets described here. But then it also has a permissions tab. So the permissions tab allows you to add additional users and grant them rights to do any one of these actions. So it allows you to delegate some of these actions to what we call as the workload user. So it's a new way of dealing with workloads. If you're operating in an environment where you have workload users who want to be able to do their work themselves. Besides that, you have the regular policy framework that you see over here. So if I switch back into my Java policy, so this is the Java policy. So what I have in the Java policy framework would appear in the web UI under the policy list as well. So these are my Java interface policies, and you'll see them appear over here as well. So besides that, you have different ways of configuring workloads, like for example, SQL workloads, so you have SQL workloads, availability groups, all available over here. And you can also navigate to the different databases. You can also perform actions like recovery. You can drive recovery actions from here as well. So the beauty of this interface is that unlike the Java interface, where you have to be on the machine where the Java interface is installed, the web interface, well, you don't have to be, right? So you could be on your laptop pointing the browser to your NetBackup master server and working with the NetBackup master server. You could be at the client there where the data is to be recovered and driving this straight from there. So the web interface makes things way much easier to work with. And similar for VMware as well. So you'll see all the assets. Now, what this list will show is the VMware virtual machines that have been discovered. So in my lab environment, these are the virtual machines, and it straight away shows what virtual machines are there, which one is protected using what method. So you see two machines listed over here say they are not protected. That means their NetBackup doesn't have a policy defined against them. And then you have this yellow box saying there's a classic policy used. So a classic policy would be the older way of protecting VMware backups that you might have in your NetBackup Java interface. And then you have this, which is a new way of protecting a policy because this was defined under the protection plans over here. So that is what that section shows. And then you further down, you also have the cloud section. Now I will shift over to my AWS environment, or I'll go over to my Azure deployment and show you how that looks like.
So Phil, just on that, the web UI that we just saw was pretty much hosted in your VMware lab environment, and now we're switching into a NetBackup 8.3 installation completely hosted in AWS or Azure or both.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So now for cloud environments, we also have a method of protecting data through by way of snapshots, right? Because if you're working in AWS or Azure or even GCP, those environments allow you to protect data agentless using snapshots. So to do that, what you would do is you would deploy a CloudPoint server, CloudPoint instance. It's a very simple Docker-based deployment, and you can find them in. So if I just search for. So you can go over here, deploy straight from the marketplace. And once that is deployed, you would add the CloudPoint server into your NetBackup environment. And once that is added, it will auto-discover your cloud environment, right? So in this instance, I've configured against Amazon, against the AWS and deployment I have. And you can have multiple CloudPoint servers deployed in other clouds. So you don't, from the same master server, you could potentially protect assets in other clouds as well. All you need to have is a suitable CloudPoint server deployed in them. And once that is deployed, it automatically discovers all your cloud assets, right? So these are the cloud assets that it has discovered. And you can see again, similar to the way I described the on-premises environment, like how it discovered your VMware assets, it discovers the cloud assets. And if you have things like RDS databases, it would show up over here. And your EBS volumes also show up over here. And you will go and define a protection plan for that. So it says that I have this particular VM protected by that. So, and if you click on it, so this is the particular cloud assets that was in a protection plan. It will, and we can very easily go and browse. Okay, so this is a quick history of recovery points, backups I have done, and then you can go and do things like rollback restores. You can restore volumes, so you can take action to recover those assets all from this one simple interface. So it's very easy to deal with. So if you've not used the web interface before, I would ask you to go have a look at that. And with that, you can protect your on-premises and cloud very easily. And you can also configure your storage assets as well, the media devices that you're backing up to. If you're backing up to disk, a dedupe pool, you can configure them using the web interface as well. So let's look at what that may look like. So this interface is to configure all open storage disk, standard disk from advanced disk, NetBackup native deduplication pools, or even cloud storage pools. So for example, if I pick cloud storage pools, you'll see we will very easily allow you to pick, just like how NetBackup always does, gives you a wide array of choices. Over here, it lists 53. Now this number of cloud vendors is growing very rapidly. So you can see from when NetBackup 7.1 was just 1, NetBackup 7.5 was 3, and now to NetBackup A3, it's 53. And there's one vendor or the other being added almost weekly basis. So keep looking at our compatibility list for your favorite cloud provider. And again, once you pick a cloud provider, you will, well, just like here, it automatically went and discovered the location. So let's pick Sydney. And once that is done, you can go and pick from the single cloud provider the different types of storage that is available for you to configure. So you can configure any one of these targets very easily, not just for straight backups, but for deduplicated backups as well. All right. So if you've not used before, have a look. This will get you started on the new capabilities, including, so I also have here an AWS S3 based deduplication pool. This is new in NetBackup 8.3 as well. Prior to NetBackup 8.3, we used something called Cloud Catalyst. So Cloud Catalyst, if you had your regular media server, and if you wanted to deduplicate data to Azure, AWS, Google, or any one of those 53 vendors I just showed you just a while ago, you had to set up a separate Cloud Catalyst server to deduplicate data to the cloud. With NetBackup 8.3, you don't have to do it. You can configure an additional deduplication logical storage unit and point it to a cloud target straight from your existing media server. So you don't need another media server to do that. Right. So that is the other advancement, I will say, from NetBackup 8.3 that you should consider making use of. So I'm quickly logging into my Azure deployment as well. And similar to the AWS bucket, I also have an Azure blob configured as a deduplication target here as well. All right, so that was a quick view of the NetBackup web UI. But if you are today using a user interface of the day, you might say your user interface is no longer web, no longer Java, but a REST API. So the REST API is very powerful with NetBackup 8.3 as well. So I'm just showing you over here the API documentation, which you can find from our SORT website. So you can do a lot of tasks with our REST API, right? So you can literally, one of the capabilities we introduced in NetBackup 8.2 was the ability to integrate. So I scroll down here again. You have this option called Resiliency in the NetBackup interface. So if the way this works is you would deploy a NetBackup 8.3 environment. You would deploy a Veritas Resiliency platform deployment. So if you are licensed under the NetBackup capacity model, which is what majority of our customers use today, with NetBackup 8.3 onwards, you are entitled to use Veritas Resiliency platform as well. So you would add the resiliency platform into your NetBackup environment, and through that you can do things like orchestrate straight through conversion of, for example, a VMware backup job done on premises into an EC2 instance in AWS through a single step process. So the way it's done is we do our backups on premises of your virtual machines. We send them up to a deduplication pool in the cloud, and we have a resiliency platform agent running inside AWS that would take the VMware machine that was backed up and sent up to AWS, do a straight off conversion of the VMware virtual machine into an EC2 instance. Now, you would think that that's a lot of pieces working together. And the way we achieve that is by integrating NetBackup and Resiliency platform simply by using the REST API. So if we could do it with this API, you can see it's a very powerful API. And if we are only doing that, and if you want to do something else with a different cloud target, well, we give you the option to go do it yourself. Now, we are working on these one-off conversion steps to other cloud targets as well. But it shows, how powerful these REST API calls can be. So if you are one of the newer users, a DevOps user who likes to get things done not through a web interface, not through a Java interface, but a REST API, off you go. Find the REST API actions documented over here. There in GitHub, there is a few example code uploads as well, and go make use of it. And also, the other interface, if you're not using on a daily basis, should be your NetBackup Op Center. So any NetBackup environment, if you have one, you should be using an Op Center environment as well. So on a regular basis, you can go to the Op Center view across multiple NetBackup domains from a single point of view. You get a view of your policies. You get a view of your devices in the environment. Straight off, I have 5 tape drives. I have multiple disk pools. You get a view of how busy they are, how full they are, and you have total control of the environment, all from a very simple view of browser-based. And Op Center is not just a daily activity. It's got built-in reports as well, not just reports that you can run ad hoc, but you can also schedule these reports to be generated and sent over to your inbox, right? So Op Center is not new, but if you're not using Op Center in that capacity, consider using Op Center as well. If you want to make use of REST API, go for it as well from the REST API interfaces that we have made available today. A few other things I would also recommend you do is if you should also use sort actively, create yourself a sort account. Sort, you can go create yourself an account. And with that environment, you can, get our documentation, check our compatibility list, not just for, NetBackup, for other products as well. And if you are considering an upgrade to NetBackup A3 and you haven't done that before, there is an upgrade planner as well. So you got this installation upgrade checklist. So you can say you're upgrading from version 8.1 to version 8.3, and do a quick health check or a quick generate a checklist of things you should consider. And if you wanted something more detailed for your environment, SORT also has a deployment analyzer. All right. So if you go to SORT under tools, you'll find this thing called a SORT data collector. So there are a bunch of data collectors. And what these data collectors do is it allows you to do a number of things like installation and upgrade checks, a risk assessment of your environment. And you can very easily do that on a self-help basis, right? And you can also redact like IP addresses and host names if you don't want that collected. So I'll give you a quick view of what it looks like. So Amit and Rob, I gather lots of questions are coming through, and you're going through the list.
That's correct, Phil. There are a good amount of questions coming in. There were a couple of questions around the user interface and how flexible it is. Do you want to take the questions now, or do we want to wait until you finish your agenda?
All right, so let me just complete this and then pause and ask one question if you had to pick one. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, so as I was saying, the data collector that you can get from SORT is not just for having a look at NetBackup. It can be used for other Veritas products as well. So if you pick NetBackup as the one that you want to have a look at, and you can see at the bottom here, run the data collector with all your IPs and host names marked and redacted. So you can redact them. And then you would go and add your master server, and then you would run a data collector. The data collector creates a small XML file, and you upload the XML file into your SORT account, and it generates the reports. So in my personal SORT account, I have these few reports, and you can see I've been using SORT for a very long time. So anything I uploaded, it just stays there. Unless you go and delete them. So I did this yesterday, so you can see that my master server is pretty good. It highlighted I may need some ports open in my firewall to make things work. So if you're not on A3, if you're planning to go to A3, I recommend you have a look at these things and do a quick health check. All right, so the other bits I want to also show to you is if you have your support account, so on your Veritas support account login, you can go to your My Appliances tab and get a live telemetry details of your environment. So you can see I have 2 of my lab systems registered, and they are showing up over here. And one of them is running firmware 3.2, and another one is running firmware which is not released to public yet. All right. So yes, I think I'm getting a lot of questions about when can I upgrade my appliance to NetBackup A3. The firmware for upgrading to NetBackup A3 will be released as firmware version 3.3.0.1. So we are going from version 3.2 straight to version 3.3.01. So we are not releasing a version 3.3. And so I've tested it. I'm very happy with the outcome I had in my testing. So this code should be released within a couple of weeks in October. All right. So stand by if you're waiting to upgrade your NetBackup appliances to 8.3. It should be there very soon. Something else I also want to show in NetBackup 8.3. So this is another NetBackup environment I'm logging into. So in NetBackup 8.3, we are also releasing support for immutable storage. Immutable storage support is released. It's a capability to strengthen ransomware defenses for your environment. So you'll notice that I log into my Java interface as well. So even if you log into your Java interfaces and check your disk pools, you'll find a new column saying it's worm capable, right? Worm capability, write once, read many times, capable disk target. So that is a new type of disk targets that we are supporting with NetBackup 8.3. We are supporting Aws S3 based disk technologies as well as our own. So Veritas native form of worm-based deduplication pools will be introduced through the Veritas Flex family of appliances. So what and you can see over here, I have a regular in. So this is one of my Flex appliances in my lab environment. So I have a advanced disk, then I have a deduplicated disk, and I also have an immutable deduplicated disk. So immutable deduplicated disk pools will be a new form of technology that will be coming to you. Also planned to be made generally available in month of October. So month of October is going to be quite a few new exciting things. Worm capable dedupe pools from Veritas to you as well. Now, this is something quite interesting in terms of capabilities. And we've thought long and hard about how best to do this. So let me show you some of the capabilities in these pools. Okay, so worm-capable disk pools have to have certain capabilities more than you know you know I think top of mind of a lot of our customers is ransomware defenses and worm capabilities. So I know a lot of vendors are talking about, oh, we are immutable, we are worm capable and whatnot. We go through a very stringent process on our side of the business. So we go through third-party compliance validation checks so that we can be certified for the immutability claims that we make. So we have a qualification process until we are happy with the capability before we start supporting it, right? So we are not going to say anything and everything is worm capable. We have a qualification process. And those who pass through qualification process will advertise to NetBackup their worm capabilities, and you'll see us being able to support that. Now, one of the interesting things with worm type disk is if you back up and if you say you want it retained for 3 years, it should be permanently there for 3 years without being able to be modified and expired prior to the intended retention period. So if you say 3, it has to be 3. So and it could be quite dangerous at times as well, because it can be dangerous if someone over retains a backup on a worm disk device. So as a safety mechanism, we have also introduced what is called a minimum and a maximum lock time. So what that means is that when you're backing up to this particular worm disk, so in my lab environment, I'm not going for years. I've gone for hours. So I've said that anything backed up to this disk should be retained at least for 2 hours, but it should not be more than for 6 hours. So I have a 2 to 4 hour safety barrier within which anything that comes in here will not be expirable and I with this safety barrier I avoid someone using this disk to try and over retain data, right? So it's a safety check for worm capable disk. So with that, I make it safer to adopt worm based backup. So if I try to apply a retention level to the backup that is outside of this period, so I have said that I want, if I say I want to retain it for 1 week, let me go back to it. Yeah, so I have created a storage lifecycle policy for that. So I've said that my worm capable worm target should be retained for 4 hours. So if I try to change it to say longer than that, it comes out with an error. No, it's the retention period I want to apply is not compatible, right? So that's how the safety mechanism comes into work. So I hope you got an impression of how the worm capable disk targets work as well. And yeah, questions?
Well, there is now that you've just left it on the worm, there is a worm. Anyway, there is a question that that has come up with is how to restore from an immutable disk. Maybe this is a quick one, and then we can move on.
How we restore from, so restores from immutable disk storage targets will be no different to any other restores. The only thing you will not be able to do with a worm capable disk target is to go and change the retention level you apply to it. So if you say it should be retained for 6 months, and if you want to go and change the retention later, you will not be able to. And the worm technologies are also tested for time compliance as well. So for example, the way NetBackup works and works with retention is if you apply a retention to a disk based image, then the disk target stores the image based on the timestamp it's applied. So if I backup today, September, and if I say I want it retained for 1 month, the backup image is told that it will be stored there until some date in October or 23rd of October. But a malicious user could try to go into the backup appliance and change the system date to, let's say, if he changes the system date to 23rd of October and boot up the backup appliance, it could potentially boot up even today and think that, oh, I'm actually 23rd of October when he's actually not, and proceed to expire the backup image. So in immutable disk targets, we have a requirement for a time clock compliance test as well, where the time clock cannot be altered. So these disk targets that are worm capable are not your average disk targets. They have special capabilities that give you the assurance that it's a worm capable disk. Okay, so as far as recoveries are concerned, it's just like any other restore target. All right.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, so NetBackup has supported worm technologies with tape for a number of years now. With NetBackup 8.3, we started supporting Glacier Vault Lock as a cloud-based worm retention target. With NetBackup 8.3, we are adding it to our own deduplication pools powered by Flex. And we are also adding it to third-party OSD devices that we qualify for worm capability as well. Yeah. So that was I hope that explained. The
Yes,
other
sir.
bits I want to explain is also capabilities like NetBackup Air are very relevant for cloud environments as well. I mean, it so happens that we had a requirement for a customer who said, oh, I have an environment that is running on AWS and another environment running in Azure. I want backups from one place to be available on the other and vice versa. Those are very simple things you could achieve today by using capabilities like auto-image replication. So I'm not going to spend too much time explaining auto-image replication, but again, if I go back to my environment over here, so I have a NetBackup master media server configured in Azure, and in there, to do auto-image replication, all I have to do is establish trust between the master server in Azure with the master server in AWS and create a storage lifecycle policy that will do that. So I built this storage lifecycle policy for auto-image replication. So what I'm saying that my Azure backups will back up to a deduplication pool in Azure, and it will replicate to a deduplication pool in AWS. And similarly, I have the ability to receive import backups that are sent from the AWS environment to my deduplication pool in Azure and store it in my case, I am duplicating a second copy to an Azure blob as well. So I've effectively achieved cross-cloud backup replication by making use of auto-image replication. So you could say auto-image replication is not new, but it's very useful in this day and age when people have deployments in hybrid cloud environments. So the last thing I want to cover off is Flex. Now, I just showed you a Flex deployment that out of my lab. And if you're not, if you're new to Flex, a small explanation of what Flex is. So the Flex appliance form factor is something Veritas introduced about 2 years back now. We have a few customers using Flex today in Australia. But again, in October or next month, we are going to do a major upgrade to the Flex firmware. So with the October release, we are going to release what is called Flex Appliance Firmware version 2.0. And what Flex is a hardware platform that runs NetBackup in a containerized manner. So just like you can see in this diagram, you have the hardware and you have a software platform, which is just like a regular NetBackup appliance. So you have your hardened operating system, and you also get a security intrusion prevention detection software included. So intrusion prevention detection ensures another level of defense versus ransomware or other attacks in your environment. And then NetBackup is stood up as containers inside the single hardware form factor. And these containers could be also isolated by tenants. So there could be one tenant domain that has one network segment and another tenant domain that has another network segment. And then you organize your masters media servers in there and deploy them and scale them up as you feel like. So let me show you a bit of how that looks like as well. So so this is my Flex appliance. Okay, let me log into that. So this is a small Flex appliance I have in my environment. So when you log into Flex, you get a view of right. the storage footprint available to you, how many instances of Flex are running, if there are any Flex instances that have stopped working. The Flex appliance also come with built-in high availability, so it monitors the uptime of these containers, make sure they are up and running. It comes with a bunch of few self-help videos that tell you, how you get started as well. So, so on Flex, you have this concept of a tenant. So a tenant could be like a domain. So inside the tenant concept, you'll define your network subnets and whatnot, the particular domain that you're going to use. And then into the Flex form factor, you import your application images. So I've imported NetBackup A3 image, and this image is deployable. So you would go and say you want to import an image, and you add the image in, and with the image you do deployments, right? And again, when you're upgrading the environment, it would be similar. You would add the package into the repository and then take actions to deploy them. Now, in my particular Flex deployment, what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a few instances. So I have created a master server, I've created a media server, then I've created an immutable dedup pool target, all in my Flex appliance, right? So you can just create the size you want and scale them up whenever you want. All right. For example, you can pick one of the instances you want, and you can say upgrade the instance to a newer version, resize the storage as well. I mean, resize is now grayed out because you had to stop the instance before you resize, but it shows you the the power of the platform. So just to show you how easy it is to deploy an instance, I thought I'll create a new instance. So let me create a new media server just like that. The regular things you have to do. So you'll read here, you still have to do your regular activities like, go to the master server, add it to the servers list, and so on. So you would pick the network interface configured, and it populates because you are deploying under this particular tenant. It picks up the tenant's network details. Let me assign a particular IP address that I want to use. Assign the tenant details, go and say I want a dedup pool for now, which is 2 terabytes. It says this much is available. Wants to know which master server are you going to connect to. So I have these details ready and handy so that I can do this quickly. The master server's host credential. Now these are things you can very easily find. I mean, if you go to your master server, you'll find these certificate details and all that available. And you can go and get those details from there, literally copy and paste into your Flex environment. So I need a token for that. Again, you can go and generate a token. I have already generated the token. So you'll see this token framework and stuff is new things in NetBackup 8.1 onwards as well. Just like any other media server, it needs a license key. So I'll apply a license key, click next. So it's asking me to validate, is this what you want to create? And I say, yep, sounds like a media server. You want to deploy it now and just create. So the Flex appliance also has an activity monitor of its own. So this is what the Flex appliance's activity monitor is. And it shows what activities are happening in terms of creation of an appliance, of an instance. Is it up? Is it down? if you have a multi-host Flex deployment, because we have a highly available Flex form factor as well, which means there are two heads running the Flex software. So if one head goes down, it can fail over to the other, gives you high availability as well. So the Flex platform is now come a long way. And in this version of Flex Dawson release, we are also releasing support for fiber channel adapters as well. The Flex version 1 did not have fiber channel support formally. Flex 2.0 is this version has support for fiber channel adapters as well. And you can see, just like that, I have a new media server deployed. And if I browse the environment, I'll go have a look at my Java console as well. Go look at media servers. There you go. So the media server appliance I just created now has come alive. And yeah, there you go. So this is the instance I created just now. So that wasn't taking a long time to stand up a new media server, right? So imagine creating a media server on the fly in a matter of few minutes. That's what the Flex platform is all about. So I hope today's session was useful. Wanted to give you a quick overview of the NetBackup advancements of the day, show you some things that are going to come as soon as in 2 weeks' time, and also give you a flavor of new technologies like the Flex platform as well. So Amit and Rob, how have you been going through the questions?
Phil, thank you for that. That Flex deployment was really quick. I think we have a few questions that we thought would be good to discuss. Given that we have 3 minutes, I'm going to start with the latest topic on Flex. So there is one question on the Flex appliance, which says for the Flex appliance, can we provision a master and a media container for a smaller environment?
Yeah. I mean, now this particular Flex appliance that I am using in my lab, it happens to be the smallest Flex appliance we have. So it's called the Flex Model 5150. It's actually just one rack unit. It comes with 64 gigabytes of RAM. It comes with 14 terabytes of disk built in it, and you can see over here I've deployed a master. I deployed 2 media servers, and I'm also running an immutable disk target on it as well. So yeah, you can deploy multiple form factors in it. You could deploy a cloud catalyst on it and dedupe to the cloud. That is one way to dedupe to the cloud. But with NetBackup A3 being able to do MSDP cloud straight, you don't actually need a cloud catalyst deployment here. So you could make use of an existing media server instance and configure a cloud deduplication pool as well. This is ideal for a remote office location, I would say. I mean, Australia is widely distributed among our customers. You have data centers with big appliances. So you might deploy like a model 5340 Flex appliance that can scale up to about 2.9 petabytes of storage on it. So 2.9 petabytes of storage, you could deploy MSDP pools just as when you want. And while on the edge in remote locations, you can place these Flex 5150s. And not just protect data safely with immutability as well.
Phil, I think the second part of that question was, can that be in the same container, media and master to be running in the same container for smaller environments?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I think I can take one more question out of all of this. Now, let me assure you that all the questions we have noted, and along with the questions that we've got at time of registration, we've got these questions in our list. We will respond to each one of these and send it as part of our follow-up. We will also send questions around, the roadmap. There are some questions that come on the roadmap as well. We will reach out to you in case if if you need more details or more clarifications on any of these topics that we've covered. Please reach out to us on anz.team@veritas.com. This is what gives us your feedback as well as an opportunity to connect with you and give you the necessary insights. All right. So with that, I think we are at the top of the hour. So we do have a few unanswered questions, Phil, but I don't want to spill way too much. So I'm going to hand it back to Trudy. Trudy, do you want to take it from here?
Thanks for that, Amit. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Rob. Fantastic demonstration session today. As Amit said, we're going to follow up with the recording of this session. We'll get back to you on any unanswered questions. We've got those all recorded. And also, we will be awarding the $50 voucher for the top question asked. So I'll be contacting the winner today, and we'll also let everyone know who's won that. So thank you all. Much appreciated for your time. And stay tuned for our next Tech Drop-In session. All right, I'll be ending the call now. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.